Welcome to this week's episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in as little as 15 minutes to build your dream business. And now here's your host, the Visibility Wiz, Cindy J.
Hi, I'm Cindy J, the Visibility Wiz, and welcome to this episode of Biz Success in 15, where top experts share hot tips and strategies that you can implement in 15 minutes or less to build your business. Today, our guest is Tracey Osborne, and she is known for her honest, open, and bold approach to women empowerment. She is a trauma recovery coach, guiding women on their journey to become the empowered woman that they are supposed to be. She's a rape and domestic abuse thriver, and Tracy connects with women on a global scale to support them in their healing, bringing them the tools that they need to move past their past and create lasting transformations. Welcome, Tracy. It's a pleasure to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely our pleasure. I love your podcast, the Daring Woman podcast. So before we start talking about that and just empowering women, can you share a personal or business challenge that you had to overcome in order to achieve your level of success?
Oh my gosh. All of them. There's so many. It's, when being an entrepreneur, a lot of times it's kind of like, throwing spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks, right? So, I think for me with Daring Woman, the biggest obstacle I had to overcome was, what is it? I came up with this great name. I knew I wanted to empower women. And then the name Daring Woman popped into my head and I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, what is this? I can do all this cool stuff with this. And I have shiny project syndrome. So, I want to come out of the gate and do everything. So for me, the biggest challenge was, getting clarity on the direction of the company. What is this company all about? What is it that we do? And then kind of pulling myself back from doing too much too soon.
I love it. And, I believe that's a challenge that so many of us have because we just want everything and we want it now. So to break it down in steps and get clarity on that journey.
Yeah. I mean, you come up with these great ideas. I'm like, oh gosh, okay, so we've got the website. I can do the magazine. I've got the podcast. I'll start a publishing division. We're going to do the conference. And I want to do all of this now.
Mm-hmm.
And it doesn't work that way.
Right. Never, ever, ever, ever.
Work that way.
And I know that your passion, your mission is really to empower women, especially those with a traumatic past. So Tracy, can you share how being a rape and domestic abuse thriver played a part in developing your philosophy and your business?
Because of my past and because of the traumas that I have had to deal with, I have had to find my voice again. When you're in those situations and you're being controlled and you're being berated and put down and abused, you're just in survival mode. And so you forget who you are and you learn to be quiet because speaking can get you hit or hurt. So you learn to be quiet. And I've never been a very good quiet person. So, for me, it was, okay, I'm going to start telling people my story because I want them to know that they're not alone.
Right.
I want other women out there to know that whatever nightmare they're walking through, they're not alone and there is hope. And so leaning on my past and, having those t-shirts, if you will, I can use that experience to help women who are in similar situations. And, I understand. I understand the fear. I understand the confusion. I understand, hating him and wanting him and loving him all at the same time. I get it. And so that is how I can do what I do, because I've been there.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, for example, I just recently lost my husband. I cannot or could not relate to anybody who had lost a spouse before,
Right.
until I lost mine.
Mm-hmm. And I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you. It is a whole world that you can't fathom at all. And so that's why I work with women who are in, or have been in domestic abuse or sexual assault situations. And now I'm adding grief to that as well, because I need to be able to relate to them.
Right.
I don't have birth trauma experience, so I can't relate to those women. I don't have cancer experience, so I can't relate to those women, So that's why I specialize where I specialize.
Mm-hmm. Because you can relate to them, and it makes them, as you said earlier, feel not so alone. And
Yes.
I think that's so important for anybody. Nobody wants to feel alone, and knowing somebody else has survived what you've survived gives them hope that they can survive and come out a thriver, such as yourself.
Yes.
Yes. And as you was going back to your business, as you was building it, what's the best advice that you ever received?
I start small. I think that's probably the best thing that I didn't listen to, and I should have, was, start small. Get all the great ideas that you have, write them down, save them for later, but, start small and build it up. I did the opposite. I tried to start big. So I had the website, the magazine, and the podcast, and I didn't have the traction. I didn't have the numbers. I didn't have the followers in the beginning. And so I had to stop the magazine because we just, we couldn't afford to keep running it. We couldn't get paid advertising for it. So start small. And as you grow, you can implement those new exciting programs and products and services and whatever else it is that you want to do.
That's really good advice. Regardless where you're at, start small with that project and let it grow on its own.
Yes. Beware of shiny new project syndrome. I am so bad about that. I have so many people that I have to go to. I'm like, okay, I want to do this. And they'll be like, no, you can't do that right now. but I want to, no, you can't do that right now. So, yeah.
Right. And and it's holding yourself back sometimes too, really asking what's the best thing I can do right now to build my business and stay on track, versus all these shiny objects and ideas that get us off track of the big picture.
Yeah, just like we can be our own worst enemy as far as like negative self-talk and self-loathing and that kind of thing. We are also our own worst enemy when it comes to building our business, because this is our baby. We're so close to it. We can't look objectively from out here because we're right here in the middle of the camera, So we definitely can be our own worst enemy with business. So taking a step back and trying to look at it from that big picture view is crucial.
Mm-hmm. And now you said it was like you started big, everything at the beginning. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you is, how did you come up with the idea for the Daring Women podcast? I think your podcast is a little bit unique in how you share the stories and stuff. So is there any background behind you developing that?
So my podcast started in 2009, I think it was. And it started as Coffee with Tracy. And that was back when I was a virtual assistant. And I just, didn't know what I was doing. And I just had pretty much anybody on. It didn't have a theme. It was just people, And then I got too busy and I put it on hiatus for about 10 years. Brought it back last year, and I brought it back as Coffee with Tracy. And then when we launched Daring Woman, I just rebranded it and kind of redid the version or the vision of it. So instead of being a business podcast, I made it about women coming on and telling their stories. So it is a safe platform for people to come on and talk about the traumas that they've been through. And then we can talk about how they were able to overcome them, give our listeners some great ideas and great tips for, getting past their past.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was just kind of a natural evolution.
And I love that you do have all the different stories of women. As you mentioned earlier, you know what it's like to feel alone, and you don't want other women to feel alone. So you have all of these stories of so many different magnitudes of our pasts that it really empowers and strengthens women. So I commend you for that.
Thank you. We have women from all walks of life on there, and some of the stories are just, it's amazing that they're sane today, but they're thriving, and that's kind of the whole point. Is I want people to know, like I say, there is life after trauma.
Right. Definitely life after trauma. And there's successful business after trauma.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And I know even from my own past that so many people don't realize that you can use a traumatic past for your benefit and really build a successful business on top of it.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm. And and it doesn't have to revolve around whatever the trauma was. You don't have to build a right. business around, rape trauma or child abuse or, anything like that. But the fact is, you lived through that nightmare mm-hmm. and you survived, and you're strong. You are a strong person because of what you've been through. And so if you can live through that, you can build a business.
Right. Exactly. And what do you believe really holds so many women back from building that successful business because of their traumatic past? What's holding them back?
Fear.
Fear
of success, fear of failure. It's a risk. It is a huge risk. And if they've lost their self-confidence along the way, then we suffer from imposter syndrome. And I'm no different. I do too. I have days where I'm like, why am I doing this? Can I really do this? Who am I to coach these people? Mm-hmm. I have to remind myself, well, you're a survivor. That's who you are,
Right.
Look at where you've been, look at where you are. But, and that's kind of the same with a lot of people is they're like, well, who am I to do X, Y, Z?
Right.
Why would anybody buy from me? Why would anybody hire me? And it's a confidence thing, and it's a fear thing. And then also, if you don't have the support, if you have a spouse or family or friends that are very negative about starting a business because they have their own beliefs, their own limiting beliefs, that makes it tough too. And you kind of start to listen to other people thinking, okay, well, maybe I shouldn't do this. Don't listen to them.
Right. So if there are women out there listening to this going, I'm just starting my business, or I'm having my business, but I have all these doubts and fears and my past keeps coming back to haunt me, what are a couple steps that you would give them to get started and to empower them?
Tell your past to shut up. Seriously. No, we all have that voice in our head. I like I said, I do too. And I've been an entrepreneur for 12 years. But you have to, you can't let fear take control of the wheel. And so, I hear you. I appreciate your concern. Thank you. You can sit down now, Mm-hmm. I love to talk about our emotions, like the movie Inside Out. If you haven't seen the movie Inside Out, it's a cute little Disney cartoon or Pixar or whatever it is. Go watch it. It's like one of my favorites. But they have the different emotions that are controlling the wheelhouse, the brain, and they have fear and rage and joy and sadness and disgust and all of that. and they're all different personalities. So I like to think of our emotions like that, as different personalities. And fear has its place. It's not to take over and put on the brakes. It's to express caution. You know, it's okay, this is uncomfortable. This is stepping out of our comfort zone. You know, just be careful, be cautious, do your due diligence. So definitely, you know, listen to the voices, but don't necessarily follow them. Journaling is great too. When you have all of that negativity and the self-doubt and all of that, just write it down. Just put pen to paper, just get it out of your head, and then forget it.
I love that. Thank you.
You can do it.
You can do it. That's right. And so Tracy, now can you share a strategy that business owners can implement in 15 minutes or less to build their business?
Which one do I want to use? Okay, so organization. You know, a lot of us, especially if we're very creative, we suck at organization. And I have to hire people to keep me organized because I'm terrible. I'm too creative. But what I have learned is, you know, taking a few minutes every day to just kind of map out what is it that I want to get done today. You know, what do I absolutely have to do? And so I'll make a list. And a lot of times what I'll do is write down next to it how long I think it should take. So I have to get a blog post out today. That should take me about an hour to write it, format it, and publish it. I have to do the, you know, XYZ, and it's going to take me this long. So that way you can kind of gauge and say, okay, well, I have 40 hours worth of stuff to do in an 8-hour day because that's all I have allotted for myself. What can wait? What can I delegate to somebody else? You know, what doesn't absolutely have to get done today. So I think just taking, you know, 10 or 15 minutes every morning or even at night at the end of your day for the next day to just kind of plot out and say, okay, this is the stuff that absolutely has to get done. And just create that list for yourself. And at the very top of your list, put create to-do list, because that's the first thing you get to check off, and then you're on a roll.
I love that idea. I've never heard that before, but it's so simple and it's true. The first thing on your to-do list is create your to-do list.
Exactly. I mean, who doesn't love to cross off their to-do list, right?
Exactly.
I don't know about you. I get the best feeling. It's like, yeah, done. Yeah, done. So, you know, you put just those small wins on there and you're like, yeah, I did my to-do list.
Yay.
Yeah, the rest of it's gravy now.
Right. I love that idea. Thank you. And I know that you have a wonderful gift for our listeners, Tracy. So can you share a little bit about it?
I do. I have a report for you guys called 6 Steps to 6 Figures. I'm going to give you some of my top tips for building a business from scratch up to your first 6 figures.
And I love it. And, you know, 6 figures seems to be everybody's first goal. So to our listeners, you definitely want to head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Tracy. That's all lowercase, TRACEY. So head on over to bizsuccessin15.com/Tracy and grab your 6 steps to 6 figures. So you'll be able to path out your own journey to your 6 figures. And Tracy, do you have any parting words for our listeners?
Oh, goodness. You know, life is a journey. Life really is a journey, and it's an adventure, and it's there for you to enjoy, and it's there for you to explore. And part of that is you know, if it's in your blood, is building your own business. And it's terrifying. It's exciting. It's like dating for the first time. You know, you start dating somebody and you can't wait to talk to them. You can't wait to see them. You're so excited. That's all you think about, that you dream about it. It's like that. Only better, because it's yours. It's like it's your baby. So, you know, throw caution to the wind and do it. We've all lived through our own traumas in life. If you can live through whatever has happened to you in your past, you can become a six-figure entrepreneur. Absolutely.
Great. I love that. Thank you, Tracy. It's been a pleasure having you today.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, if you enjoyed today's show, feel free to share it with your friends. And you want to visit bizsuccessin15.com/Tracy, all lowercase, Tracey. And you're going to find all links from today's show, including Tracy's magnificent Daring Woman podcast. You definitely want to go over there and start listening to it and subscribe to her channel. And also, whenever you visit bizsuccessin15.com/Tracy, you'll be able to re-listen to her words of wisdom, catch up on other past episodes that you might have missed. And while you're there, you definitely want to grab your own free report, 6 Steps to Six Figures. So I hope you have a great week, and be sure to tune in next week with another amazing guest. Big hugs. Bye-bye.
You've been listening to Biz Success in 15. For all links mentioned in today's show and to watch or listen to previous episodes, visit bizsuccessin15.com. Thanks so much for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for another amazing guest.